What up, everyone? How's it going? My name is Nekky Jamal, and welcome to another episode. But this one's special. This one is going to be near and dear to all of our hearts. I have the pleasure of introducing you to Dr. Sanj Mohanta. You may have seen her from a ton of publications in the Oral Health magazine and on the weekly wisdom tips. And she is an amazing dentist out in Ontario, but she is a very unique person. And I just want to introduce you to her because I think she's one of the coolest people I've ever met. So Sanj, thank you so much for coming on. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much, Nekky. It's always a pleasure talking with you. And I'd like to thank all the audience for watching. The audience is going to learn a lot about my story, public health, giving back, and how to be a happy dentist.
Totally. Because, Sanj, I think a lot of us, we get caught on, and maybe I'm just speaking from personal experience, you get running on the hamster wheel of the daily grind. And that is mentally draining. And I think is the worst thing you can do as a dentist because then every day falls into the next day and you never get ahead, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And so that's,
Yes.
I'm sure you've been there too, and we'll get into that. But Sanj, why don't you introduce yourself and share your story with us all?
Oh, thank you for allowing me to share my story. So, I'll first start off with what I'm doing now. So, I work in a publicly funded dental clinic in Brampton, Ontario, and that's where I grew up. And I work mostly on kids, and I also work on seniors on government sponsored dental programs. I'm married. My son is in second year university studying math and business at the University of Waterloo.
Hold on,
My
second year university.
yeah,
How old are you? I thought you were like 33 years old. You got a kid in
no,
second
I'm
year university.
48.
What? You look incredible. You don't
Oh,
look like
thank
a
you.
day over 33. So I had
Thank
no
you.
idea. So you got a kid in second year. Okay. And what's he
Yeah,
studying?
and then my girl is in grade 12. She's
Okay.
wants to be a hairstylist.
Yeah.
So neither of them want to be dentists, but I didn't want to be a dentist either. I just fell into it last minute. So my family is from India. My
Yeah.
parents met on their wedding day. They had an arranged marriage.
What? Can you
So
imagine that?
yeah, if anyone thinks that's a good idea, it's not.
But like, we're watching, I don't know about you, but I'm watching Love is Blind. And I'm thinking this is like an arranged marriage, kind of, not really. Like he
It's
anyways.
true.
Yeah.
It's true. So my brother and I were born here in Toronto,
Yeah.
and I grew up in Brampton. And as a kid, I had some aspirations of being a dentist. I used to take paper clips and bend them into retainers and put them on my teeth. And then I had to wear a headgear. So then my enthusiasm for ortho waned after that.
Yeah.
And then in grade 10, I did a science fair project on which toothpaste was best.
Yeah.
And the way I did it was I wiped plaque off my teeth after brushing with different toothpaste and rubbed it on slices of potatoes and then grew them in my bathroom. So it was so crude, but Colgate won.
All right, all right.
And I got a medal. So then I was thinking of going into dentistry, but then I got my 3rd molars removed without any sedation.
Yeah.
And I thought, "There is no way I can do this." Like, thank goodness you do IV sedation. That's the way to go. So then I wanted to be a teacher, and then my friends said, "Sand, you're too smart to be a teacher." So I thought, "Okay, I'll become a university professor."
Yeah.
So I thought, "Okay, I'll do my master's, PhD." So my whole undergrad was geared towards going into academia. So I was a teaching assistant in 3rd and 4th year. I did research. In my 4th year, I did a thesis, and it was on crickets.
Really?
So
Oh
yeah, I
man.
had to take crickets, put them into test tubes, and shake them in a machine to see how it's stressed. So I was studying the stress of crickets,
Yeah, yeah.
and after a month, I thought there is no way I'm going to do
Yeah.
this. So I went to my guidance counselor. I went to the guidance department at the University of Waterloo. And I just, what can I do with my science degree? And she opened a cabinet and there was only one thing in it. and it was the application for the dental aptitude test. And I didn't
Really?
even know what it was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so she's like, "You better apply right away. Like it's being written like next month." So I applied right away, had very little time to prep. I did really well. I unbelievably had all the prerequisites to get into dental school and the marks.
Yeah.
And I applied to U of T and Western and got into both.
Really?
And so I went to University of Toronto. I was there from 95 to 99. So as a Raptors fan, you should know the
Ooh.
significance of that.
Yeah, that's the early days. That's when they first started
Yeah,
out. So that
that's
was
when
like
they played in the Sky
Damon
Dome.
Stoudemire, yeah, in the Sky Dome.
Yeah,
Do you remember?
yeah,
My grandma lives in Toronto, but my
yes.
dad, he would take me to Toronto. We had no money at all, and on the back of Coke packages, like on the back of a 12 pack of Coke, there was the a Toronto Raptors coupon that you could take to Shoppers Drug Mart. Do you remember those?
I remember going to the Sprite Zone and watching the
Yeah,
Raptors games when you're,
and
like,
they're
so
like,
high up.
yeah, like fifth level
You saw
baseball,
the
trying to watch a
Raptors, not the
basketball. Yeah,
Raptors. Yeah.
totally right. The Raptor. That's exactly what you were going for. Yeah, yeah. I've been there. I've been there. No, that's really cool. So you graduated in 1999, and then what happened?
99.
Yeah, and now you're
I hate
fresh. You're ready to get out into private practice, pay off some loans, and then what happened?
oh gosh, I had a horrible dental school experience. The only
Really,
thing I did well, yeah, the U of T is brutal. It was like being in a 4-year abusive relationship.
really.
Yeah. The
Oh man.
instructors were tough on us, and we were
Yeah,
tough on ourselves too. And the only thing I did well in was make a lot of friends.
yeah,
I wasn't a good dental student. And so when I graduated, I was disenchanted with dentistry from the beginning.
yeah,
So I was associating, was miserable. So I just kept changing associateships, thinking things would get better. And they never did.
yeah.
And I didn't look forward to going to work. I didn't care about the patients. I didn't
Hmm.
even care if I did lousy dentistry. I was just numbing myself to the point where I couldn't feel anything, joy or pain. When my
Really.
father passed Yeah, my father passed away a few years after I graduated, and I barely cried. And then 2 months after that, my son was born.
Yeah.
I didn't have any joy at all, like, to the point where when he was born and he wasn't breathing, I didn't even care if he was alive or dead. Like, that's how bad it was.
Really.
Yeah.
And this is because of dentistry?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm so
It's
sorry that
yeah,
you had that
it was
experience.
really
That's
bad.
yeah. So like
But,
what was it about dentistry that's like, changed your mentality so much?
probably because I was so used to doing well in school
Yeah.
that I was getting my self-worth from my achievements. And then when I got into dental school and it was so tough and I was learning skills I was unfamiliar with. And also it seemed like everyone wanted to be there and tried so hard to be there. And I just kind of like fell into it by accident
Yeah.
where I was still struggling in dental school. I was like, is this really the career for me? So there's a lot of self-doubt, self-criticism. You hear imposter syndrome a
Yeah.
lot, burnout a lot. Like I experienced all of that. So I think it's because I was being evaluated every day in dental school. I never felt like I was good enough. I failed a course in first year. In second year, simulation lab, like my instructor's like, you're not as good as everyone else. And then I started crying, and he's like, "This just means you need more practice." And I did do more practice, and I ended up graduating with the rest of my class with pretty good grades. But still, those early years of dental school really stuck with me,
Yeah.
and I just felt like I wasn't following my values. I think that was the main thing. I felt like, what's the point of me being here, especially in the GTA when there's so many dentists? I thought if I wasn't here, my patient could just go across the street and see the other dentist.
Yeah. So it's like
I
tough
didn't
to
feel like I was
assign your
making an
worth?
impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. My worth was all from achievement. So if I did a lousy restoration and got an open contact, like I thought I was the worst person in the world. Like I felt
Really?
like my life wasn't worth living. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I find it so interesting how dentistry affects us all so differently. And thank you so much for sharing your experience like that. That must have been such a hard time for you. So, how many years did you kind of go through the grind that you just hated? How many years did you do that for?
So I'd say actually the best thing that happened to me was my dad dying. I know that sounds horrible, but he died and then my son was born right after. So I witnessed death and life in such a short period of time.
Yeah,
And I thought, well, we have no choice in death, but we have a choice in how we live our life. And the saddest thing about my dad's death wasn't his actual death, but that he had such a sad life, that he didn't accomplish what he wanted to. So
really.
then I thought, I have a son, I want, I want to be a happy person. I want to be a good role model for him. And so I remembered back to high school when I told my friend, "Hey, I want to be a teacher." And I thought, let me go back into that. So when my son was an infant, I started teaching at a dental hygiene college,
Yeah,
like clinical courses, theory courses. Then soon after that, my daughter was born. And then I was still unhappy because I was still associating part-time to keep up my clinical skills. So my son did the best thing ever. When he was 4 years old, he's like, "Mommy, where are you going?" And I said, "Going to work." He said, "Why are you going to work?" And I said, "To make money." And then he said, "Is money more important than us?" And I was like, "Whoa."
that's pretty perceptive of a 4-year old
I
to connect
know.
that together. Hey, yeah,
It's true. So then I thought, well, if I'm gonna leave my kids where I'm their only mother, I have to
yeah,
do it for a better reason than just money. So I
yeah,
remembered back to dental school, and my favorite experience was working in the public clinics and seeing kids who, were new to Canada. It was their first experience with a dentist, and I loved making that first impression with them and getting them to trust me. And so I thought I should go into public health. That's what I enjoyed the most about dental school. So luckily, I opened up, the journal, and there was an ad to work at a public health clinic. So I've been working in public health for 15 years now.
wow. And do you find like
Yeah.
that was your calling? Like, were you able to
Yes.
reconnect with the profession that way?
Yeah, definitely. Like I was able to tell my kids that, I was even though they needed me, I was leaving them to help people who needed me even more.
Hmm.
I was able to focus on the prevention and the patient experience and getting them just to be comfortable and to trust me. So it was public health, but also all the other things I do outside of work. So I got into advocacy, community service, organized dentistry, which are all things that I did in high school. So I was always reflecting back to thinking, okay, what did I enjoy doing as a kid?
Yeah,
Well, I was a kid who was organizing things, who was, fundraising. Like, so I was going back to my roots, really, like what makes me me. Like, I lost myself for a while.
yeah.
So I was able to find myself again.
So I'm just going to ask you the question that I think a lot of people have when they want to go into like, obviously your values mean a lot more to you than any financial compensation does. Did you
Yeah.
find it difficult to give up private dentistry to go into, publicly funded dentistry? Where like, I don't know, is it like a salary basis instead of, is it per
Yes.
patient? Like, was that difficult for you?
So I have a salaried position.
Yeah.
It does have some perks like benefits and pension, but it is a big drop in pay.
Yeah.
A funny story that about my husband told my kids that they would have had a better lifestyle if their mom didn't care so much.
But that's what I'm trying to get at. You do like I think like a lot of us want to go into like we a lot of us want to help and we want to see that subset of the population that doesn't have access to care, but in our office that we have such high overheads, it's hard to marry the two. and
Mhm.
be able to accept someone else's insurance, or see a subset of population, but yet we have to use, like, wait, we're paying for our own materials, we're paying for the lights, we're paying for our staff. I
Yeah.
find it very admirable, actually, that you're like, what, I'm gonna put all this aside and I need to follow my heart. Um,
Yeah, it's true.
what do you say to the person that's in your shoes right now, or that was in your shoes? They just recently graduated. They're having a hard time because dentistry isn't what they thought it was.
Yeah, well, it's a good question because I went through it too. Like, so I had to reflect on my values. So my values, like, I don't value making money.
Yeah,
I always feel guilty asking patients to pay. So
yeah,
my values were always community service, helping the people who need it the most. So that's what I went back to. I also focused on the parts of dentistry that I enjoy the most. So the preventive, the restorative, the patient experience. I don't like doing the complex procedures, so I don't do those anymore. So
yeah,
really, like, find what things make you happy, do more of those. Find what things don't make you happy, do less of those.
yeah.
And I love working with kids. So I'm able to see kids every day at my community health center. So like I enjoy work so much that I look forward to going to work every day. Like I actually walk down the hallways and think like I'm the luckiest person in the world, that I have a better job than any other dentist. So for new dentists who are struggling like this, like first of all, recognize that you're not alone. We're all going through this. Try to figure out what is it that's making you unhappy.
Yeah.
And then You I know a lot of young people who say that they compare themselves to other dentists, that, they're not doing complex procedures, they don't own their own offices. Like, who cares? Like, instead of fitting in, like, fit within. Like,
Ooh,
you
I
have
like
to.
that. Instead of fitting in, fit within. I like that. I like that. Huh. You
And the main thing is we have to talk to each other. Like, I'm
and
all
we
about
aren't.
giving back. I
Yeah.
know. It's like talking about your struggles is an act of service because when you share your own story, it makes other people feel comfortable sharing theirs.
You're so true. Like, when you opened up there, I just, even though I didn't go through the same experience with you, um, I can see how a lot of people go through that same experience. But you hit on a really important point. Um, I find one of the hardest things in dentistry is the pressure that we feel. Like you said, like, you have an open contact, it's the end of the world. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of the pressures that we feel is because patients are paying for
Yeah,
perfection,
true.
and we can't deliver perfection. And so then we see ourselves as inferior. And I think it's really cool that you took like the expectation of perfection, because, they're not paying for it, right out of the category. So I can see
Mhm.
how you're like, okay, but now I can just be here to do what is absolutely, like, in my interest as well. I want to
Yeah,
give you the best of me. You know what I mean?
it's true.
Yeah, I,
And
I
like,
really, I think that's so cool.
yeah, with dentistry, it's a stressful profession because of two things. One is dentistry itself,
Yeah,
because it involves precision and it's complex. And
yeah.
number two, the personalities of the people who go into dentistry. We're
Oh, we
perfectionists.
are. Yeah,
We get our self-worth from our achievements. So we can't change the dentistry. It's always going to be precise and complex. So we have to change your personality, which means you can't get your self-worth from your dentistry.
yeah.
You
So,
have to get your self-worth from other things.
Sanj, let's dive deep into this here, and you were
Yeah.
vulnerable at the beginning. I will be vulnerable now. How do you find your self worth right now? Because right now, my self worth, and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. If I'm feeling really down, I need to call my patients for that week, like, and do my post op checks over the phone. And if I do my post op checks over the phone, and it almost lets me know that all the people I worked on that week are doing okay, it's like I regain my self-worth. Like, yes, you did a good
Yeah.
job this week. And I think that's damaging to a point. That's not really the I don't know if that's the best thing we should be doing, but that's how I find my self-worth after a tough week. How do you find your self-worth?
Yeah, so I redefined myself after the pandemic. Like you and I
Ah,
met
okay.
at the Pacific Dental Conference 2020, and we had
Yeah.
to isolate right after that.
That was so
And
brutal.
I know.
I was like, isolate? I've never isolated in my life. What are you talking about? I have a disease. I feel fine.
I know we were the pariahs of the world. But
Oh, I had
I felt
patients calling my office being like, Nekky posted on his social media that he was at this conference and that brought COVID all over Canada. He should be ashamed. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. What are you talking about?
I know we were the super spreaders. It was
We were the
horrible.
super spreaders.
But
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
but, I felt worthless. Like I wasn't seeing patients. So I thought, I'm not a dentist. My
Yep.
office is closed. I'm not seeing patients. I always thought that that degree was something that no one could take away from me. And then it
Oh,
was.
and then it was. You know what? I never
And
thought of it
so then
that way. You're so right. It took our self-worth
yeah,
away. Yeah, you're so right.
yeah.
Okay,
So
sorry, go ahead.
then I focused on, okay, I'm gonna distill it down to the most basic thing that I am. And I thought I'm a caring person.
Yeah.
So during that time of self-isolation, I couldn't see my family, friends, couldn't go to work. The only thing I could do is walk my dog. So I'd pick up garbage every day when I walk my dog. And
Okay.
so that I would phone a friend every single day, make a connection, make sure that people were, that my friends and family were okay. So I just focused on that. And then as soon as the isolation was over, I organized a PPE drive with one of my friends at my local dental association. So
Yeah.
then I was like, that's what I am. I'm a caring person. So with dentistry, yeah, I still want to do a great job with my clinical skills, but my main focus is caring for that patient. And
Yeah.
as soon as I switch my mindset to, my goal is to create a fabulous patient experience because that is something I can control. I
Yeah.
can't control the dentistry oftentimes. So all of a sudden, like the patients are so happy all the time. Like they're saying things like, "I've never had such a good experience before. You're the nicest dentist I've ever been to. Like I have fun coming here." Like who hears that? And it's
You know
just
what?
from focusing
I,
on the patient experience.
I find that so interesting because people spend millions of dollars on their clinics trying to get the coolest of everything, trying to get the best patient experience. And then we have someone in a publicly funded clinic without the bells and whistles, and yet you're
Yeah.
able to provide that elevated, patient experience that we're all after. What is it that you're doing that, maybe someone in private practice can kind of glean into?
Well, I treat every patient like they're a friend coming to my house. So I will go to the waiting room and greet the patient and say, "Thanks so much for coming in." So I start off with a thank you. And they say thank you right back. So a lot of my friends are like, "My patients never say thank you." It's like my patients say thank you before I even start because I say thank
Oh,
you to them.
I really like that. So you thank them for coming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
I'm like,
not?
"Thank you for coming in." Yeah.
Why have I
And
never
I
done this before? That's so smart. That's so smart. What a great idea.
And
Okay.
then I walk with them to the operatory and I talk to them about their day. I hang up their coat for them. I ask them if they
Really?
want a drink. Yeah, it's a drink of water, but I still
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
"Do you
yeah.
want a drink?" I help them into the chair. I take their mask for them. I just sit and at their level and just talk to them first about like how they're feeling, how their day's going, what's new, what's exciting them. Then I get into the dentistry. At the end, I put their coat on for them. I'll put my arm around them, like give them a hug or give the kid a high five. And I walk them back to the front door and I'll say things like, "Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciated taking care of you today."
It's
And then I
funny
get
because
another thank
I can
you.
I can I can imagine myself as your patient right now and you doing that. Like you just have that personality. I really like that. Okay. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool. That that
It's
that is how you create that patient experience. You're totally right.
like we focus so much on what we can do with our hands clinically, but sometimes the best thing you can do with your hand is to hold the other person's hand. Like that's what people are going to remember.
That's $1 million quote right there. You know that, right? Yeah. The best thing we can do with our hands is actually hold someone else's. That that's
Yeah.
a that's powerful right there. I really like that. You're full of good. That's one thing I've learned about you, Sanj. You always have these cool parables, and you have
Yeah.
these cool sayings. You always have lots of good stories. Um, but so I'm learning about your patient experience, learning about your personality here, Sanj. How would you say you define as a public health dentist? How do you define success?
I define success as following my values. So my value is to make other people feel valued. So I notice that when I'm not feeling good, it's because I have not valued someone else. I'm not valuing myself, or someone else is not valuing me. So I really focus on, making the person feel important. Like at my community health center, our vision is a healthier community where everyone belongs. So I really focus on making the patient feel welcome and empowering them to take care of their health and oral health.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that. You're following your values, you're following your gut. Have you found
Yeah.
that all the poor decisions you've ever made in your life, you didn't follow your gut?
Yeah, it's true. Didn't
Isn't
follow
it?
my values, was going against the grain. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you're supposed to, even if you're trying to make decisions that are, people tell you to make because they're supposed to be smart decisions, those end up being the worst decisions you've ever made.
Yeah,
And
like even just going into
yeah,
private practice, like why would I do that when
yeah,
I'm not, focused on money, that I enjoyed the public health experience in dental school, yet I went to private practice because everyone else did it.
yeah. I totally agree with that. I just wonder how many practice owners there are right now that cannot wait to sell to corporate to get out of the grind, to get out of what they call the grind. Like personally, I don't feel like I'm in the grind. I love my job. I get to give high fives every day. Of course, we have different practices, but I feel like I'm still able to impart value and comfort to patients, and I know we see a different subset of patients. I'm usually seeing like super nervous teenagers and people that we need to sedate, but at the same time I feel like I'm able to have an impact on their life just like you're able to have that impact on their life. But I just think how many dentists are out there that own practices because they were told that they needed to buy a practice, and then they get stuck in this hole, and then man, debt can take over quick, and then you feel like you need to work harder, so now you're open Sunday
Yeah.
evenings, and now you have 3 associate jobs and you get caught literally in the rat race. Hey.
Yeah, like you mentioned at the beginning, like the hamster wheel,
Yeah.
because it reminds me of my own hamsters when I was a kid. So this does make I am gonna make a point here. So my first hamster, Abubakar, he was like your typical hamster. He was able to get on the hamster wheel and go really, really fast, but he didn't know when to stop. So
Yeah.
you get like all hot and sweaty and basically fall out of the wheel and like stumble out in a daze. So my second hamster, Rusty,
Yeah.
never figured out how to use the hamster wheel. I'm serious. He
Okay.
couldn't figure out how to go inside. So what he did was he used to stand on the side of the hamster wheel and just go like this. And he loved it. He had so much fun.
Yeah.
He had like a great upper body because of that. He was able to like get to the top and do like flexed arm hangs, but he was like
Yeah.
so much happier than the other one who just didn't know when to stop. So I guess like how to get out of the hamster wheel, like never get in it in the first place. Like when
Yeah.
you're on the outside and you're in control and you can easily stop, like isn't that a better place to be?
Totally.
So like, as soon as you realize that, okay, you're overwhelmed, you're not happy, you don't look forward to going to work, that's when you have to stop and say, like, I need to make some decisions, or else it's just gonna like snowball into like just worse and worse days.
You know what the trap is though, right? The trap is seeing your friends and seeing your colleagues, you know, like I have a colleague in Ontario. I have one practice. My colleague in Ontario has 24 practices. And I'm quite happy where I am. I've never envisioned owning 24 practices, but then I look in the mirror at the end of the day and I say, Nekky, why don't you own 23 more practices? Or Nekky, why aren't you driving this car? Like, how is he able to afford that car and live in this huge house? And yet I have a 2 bedroom house in small town Alberta. Like, how is this? What am I doing wrong? I think that's the trap. Because then that trap makes you jump on the hamster wheel and you keep going because you need to reach him, but you're never going to.
It's
And
true.
that's not the
Yeah,
point,
it's
because you
true.
try to reach him, you're going to sell your values. Nothing works with your gut check, and it's
Yeah.
game over right after that. What do you think? Do you agree?
No, it's true. Like I still compare myself to other people. It's only natural. But
Yeah,
then I also hear a lot of my friends tell me that they don't know anyone happier in dentistry than me. So then
I
that's
couldn't
when
agree
I
more.
think,
100%. Yeah.
and that's when I think, well, I'm doing the right thing, even though I don't have a fancy car. So it's the happiness. It's the fact that I have two great kids and my patients are doing well, my kids are doing well. Even my dog, people will say they've never seen like such a
A
happy dog
happier dog.
before.
Yeah.
So I wake up with a smile. I look forward to going to work. I have no problem sleeping. Like that should be what we should be comparing ourselves with,
Yeah.
not the
No,
stuff.
I totally hear that. I totally hear that. One thing my dad told me was, I remember telling my dad, I'm like, hey, dad, how can this guy afford such a nice house? Like, we have the same job. Like, what's he doing? And he said, Necky, you know where he lives, but does he know where you live? And I'm like, no. And then he said, well, why do you care so much about a person that doesn't give a shit about you? And I said, you know what, Dad, you're right. Like, if he doesn't care about me, why am I so interested in what I think of him? Like, why aren't I focusing on the energy, or my energy, on the people around me that actually care where I live? You know, and those are
Yeah.
the type of relationships that we should be in. And that's like the first time I was able to stop looking at how green other people's grasses were, and I just started focusing on watering my own. And
I love that.
yeah, that was my mindset switch. And since then,
Yeah.
I, I've learned about myself. I'm able to be so happy for my colleagues when they say, Nekky, I did 2,000 implants last year, and I'm like, how the hell did you do that? First of all, but second, I'm so proud of you, man. Look at you. You have a great
Yeah.
practice. You have skilled hands. I hope to learn from you one day. And it took me a long time to get there. And I don't think I think a lot of dentists aren't there because we're so
Yeah.
focused, on how green our neighbor's grass is. We're not paying enough attention to our own.
Yeah, it's true. And like for my epiphany was my 4-year-old son saying, is money
Yeah,
more important than us? So like we all
totally.
need that moment to focus on what's important.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. But do you know what made me reconnect with one of my values? Was actually talking to you during the pandemic. It helped me remember the main reason why I love dentistry. And I did my first mission trip in 2009 with my buddy Carl. And Carl actually, he lives in Saskatoon, and he visited my office today. He was driving through to West Edmonton Mall, and he said, Nekky, do you remember Guatemala in 2009? I said, yeah, of course I do. And we started talking. But on that trip, I realized giving something to someone without the expectation of anything in return is really the meaning of life. You can get your
Oh yeah.
purpose from that. And unless you're actively doing that, that's when you're on the hamster wheel. And that's when you don't have that gut check. Do
It's
you agree?
true.
Yeah.
Like it gives me chills because like we're very alike in that we got our values from giving back.
Yeah.
And we cope by giving back as well. Like when we feel lousy, we both like I know you do the same thing I do. Like we'll
Time
start
to
like
volunteer.
donating to charities and volunteer. But it works. It makes you feel better.
Yeah.
But
No.
I'll give you a story about giving back. Like when I walk my dog, I'm often smiling or saying hi to people walking by. And one time I was going for a walk with my dog with my husband. And my husband was saying hi, good morning to everyone. When there was one guy who didn't say good morning back. So then my husband Steve got really upset. He's like, I can't believe that jerk didn't say good morning back to me.
Yeah,
And I said, wait, are you saying good morning to get a good morning back? I said, you should be saying good morning just to wish them well. It doesn't matter if they say good morning back. Because I was like smiling the whole time. I didn't care who said good morning back to me. But he was upset at the end of the walk because of all the people who didn't say good morning back. So who's the
right.
happier person? The person who just gives without expecting anything back.
Totally. It's your intention, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally your intention. No, I think that's so cool. We're very similar that way. But Sanj, tell me, how do you know if you made a difference? Like I know we're very similar. We try to, we donate to charities. We
Yeah.
volunteer our time. According to you, like, how do you know if you make a difference? If you made a difference?
It's not something tangible, actually. Sometimes you don't even know. It's, a feeling that you have in your heart that you wish someone else well,
Yeah,
and you hope that they receive that wish, but you don't know. But
yeah.
you made a difference in yourself. You can feel in yourself that you had positive feelings towards someone.
It is. You're so right. Have you ever heard the story of the starfish?
No, tell me.
No. Okay, so my girlfriend Nicole, she is amazing. Like she inspires me to give back because her heart is just so big, and I hope to one day have a heart like hers. But she said, I remember coming back from a community and we did a ton of dental work, and then I saw this lineup still, and it felt like we didn't even make a dent in the day. And like, you're tired, you work through lunch, but then like, the next patient comes in and they got a mouthful of decay too, and the next one and the next one and the next one. And then she's like, Nekky, let me tell you about the story of a starfish. And I was like, okay. So there's this guy, this kid on the beach, and after a big storm, and the starfish are all on the beach. And here this kid is, and he's throwing back the starfish in the water, one by one, one by one. And this old man comes walking along and says, "Hey kid, what are you doing?" "Well, I'm throwing the starfish back in the water." And then the adult says, "Look at all the starfish out here. Like, you're never going to be able to make it through everything. You're not going to be able to save all the starfish." And as the kid throws that starfish back in the water, he says, "Well, at least I made a difference to that one." And when
Oh,
I hear that, it just gives me like tingles, because that's what we do. Like, we're not in this to, make this global change, because we're never going to make a global change. And if that's your outlook, good luck to you. But it's you're going to lead a very unrewarding life, because if
it's
you
true.
realize that the biggest difference you can make is one difference at a time to one person, that's where you feel like you will make the biggest impact. It's just the single solitary um, um, interactions that you have the ability to make that difference. And so I feel like every opportunity you get, every person you meet, every interaction you have is your chance to make that difference. And so what's stopping you?
Yeah, well
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Be the
That's
starfish.
be the
Be
starfish. Like,
like
be,
the boy
be the
with the
kid throwing the
starfish.
starfish. Yeah. Yeah. Be the boy. Yeah. Um, it's once I heard that story, I was like, oh, cool. What am I going to do? What starfish am I going to throw in the water today? And I
Oh,
found that was when you talk, like, you had a really interesting title, like the subtle art of giving back.
yeah, it is
That's
subtle.
yeah, that's how my brain works, is how, what am I going to do? And I remember I was giving the graduate, or the white coat ceremony speech to the University of Saskatchewan students, and they're all excited.
Wow.
Do you remember, like, when you put on your white coat for the first time, you're like, well, I don't know, you didn't like dental school, but I'm a doctor. And these guys are like, yeah, I'm ready for the clinic. I am ready. Yeah, let's do this. And then this guy comes on stage and is just like, everything you do is going to be shit until you realize that the things that matter most are the single solitary interactions that you will make. And until you appreciate those, you're going to get on the hamster wheel. And I feel, I don't know, that's my way of giving back. How do you give back?
Actually, I give the reason why I called it the subtle art of giving back is because I give back a little bit each day. Because you know how great it feels to do mission trips and free dental days? Like, why not have that feeling every day?
Yeah.
So, for example, even on my way to work, if someone tries to cut me off, I'll let them in.
Yeah.
And I'll actually say, "Oh, this person's in a rush. I hope they get to their destination on time." So that's giving back because I'm not showing anger towards that person.
That's right. I love that. It's so easy to
And
turn evil, but
yeah,
yet you're keeping it positive. It's the mindset, it's the framework upon which
it's
you
true.
see a situation. That is the
Yeah.
subtle art of giving back.
It's
It
those
is,
and
I love
it's those
that.
little things. Like, I remember I was at the pharmacy because I need to get, medication for my daughter, and it was over the counter.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was behind the counter. So the pharmacy tech said, "Sorry, we don't have it. Can you just wait to the side, and the pharmacist will talk to you and give you some other options." So while I was waiting, a man behind me got frustrated and waiting, and he walked in front of me and butted in front of me and said, "I don't have time to wait." So I thought, well, should I tell him that, he has to wait his turn? So instead I thought, no, this is an opportunity for me to practice my patience. So then when the pharmacist did talk to him, he told the man, okay, these are benzodiazepines. You have to be very careful about like not driving right after. And the man's like, yeah, my wife just died and I'm having trouble sleeping. So that's why I need these. So I thought, just thank goodness I took that opportunity to practice patience because this man was suffering.
Yeah.
And, he needs to see the pharmacist before me. So it's like those little things of, being empathetic and, just wishing someone love instead of, exercising hate.
Yeah.
And
It's
we can
hard
all
to
do
do
things.
that, but I love that.
It's
In the
true.
moment you're like, I just want to give this guy a piece of my mind because then I win. But really, whenever you give someone a piece of your mind, you're the one that feels like crap.
Yeah, it's true. And
Yeah.
they walk away feeling no different.
Yeah. They don't
But
care.
as dentists, we can do so much every day with our patients, like giving discounts, doing free dentistry, accepting patients on public dental programs, uh, doing free dental days, doing mission trips, you know, having fundraising. Like you do great things for your community, like supporting local businesses. I love that.
Yeah.
Like even with the honey from
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
That's great. And even with third molars online, it's just amazing that the proceeds go towards Change for Children.
Yeah. No,
Like
it's been
like
really
every
cool.
single little thing you do, like even just resharing someone's story on social media, retweeting someone, like promoting someone, like we should all just like lifting each other up is also giving back.
You bring up a
Making
really
people feel
interesting point
valued
there.
is giving back. Yeah.
Totally. Why don't we do that more with each other? We're always promoting news stories
Yeah.
that resonates with us. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think the media is toxic because you find a news source that agrees with you and then you share the shit out of it and then you dive in and that's not how you're supposed to think, right? But that's what's wrong with I think social media. Instead of focusing on the news, we should be focusing on each other and we should be
Yeah.
promoting each other. And I like that. That's a great way to give back. And the
You don't
person
have to
who
spend
you
any
shares,
money.
yeah,
It doesn't take
absolutely,
time. Yeah. You don't need
yeah.
to spend any time or pay a dime. You just have to help each other grow.
Totally. Now, if you're in the greater Toronto area, Sanj is part of Gift of the Heart, yes? Gift from the Heart.
Yeah, so Gift from the Heart. So
Gift
Gift
from
from
the
the
Heart.
Heart is
Tell us about that.
it's a national dental charity. So I'm the chair of the board, and our whole vision is to improve access to oral health care. So we do free dental days. We have one coming up at a hotel in Scarborough that where people living with homelessness are. And so we're doing dental screenings, cleanings, uh, dental care. We're even doing other services like haircuts and bike repair and foot care and eye care. So we're working with other organizations to do that, to help people who really need it. And also we have an ambulance that, can go from place to place, and there's free dental hygiene treatment provided there. And we also have mobile equipment where we do care. So it's fantastic to be involved with that organization and to work with like-minded people. And that's my whole goal, is to improve access to care. So I have also done a lot of advocacy in improving public dental programs. So I'm on this Canadian Dental Association's advocacy committee, the Ontario Dental Association's advocacy task force, and I'm also on the Ontario Dental Association's community services committee. So I've met with Jagmeet Singh several times when he was my local MPP. He even came to my office and sat in my dental chair. And we had so many meetings about improving public dental programs that he would just say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I know what you're going to talk about." And so I didn't get scared.
Yeah.
But then when he became leader of the NDP, here he is talking about dental care.
Yeah.
And
It's funny
so,
how you can
yeah,
influence someone's thoughts, hey? Like
yeah,
that's
it's
you.
true.
That's you talking about that. That's got to feel pretty darn rewarding, no?
Yeah, it is. And so, how can we make a difference? It's little things like that every day, like just talking to people about, you know, talking to politicians about, concerns of our patients and how we can improve the profession. And I successfully delegated to keep water fluoridation in my region. So that is like when I was able to do that, I felt like I achieved my purpose in life, and I don't have to live another day because, that was the reason why I was born, because
Yeah.
that affected more than a million people.
That's like that's like the greatest like water fluoridation was actually voted the top 10 what in the top 10 greatest public health
Mhm.
achievements of all time. And I think that's really cool. You played a role in that. That's amazing. Think of how many people that
Yeah,
you helped just by doing that. Like
yeah,
that's amazing. Good for you.
yeah. Like, oh, thank you. So I'd really encourage other people to get involved with advocacy. It doesn't have to even be dentistry related. It can even be in your own community, like, you know, getting a public space for kids to play soccer, or
Yeah,
improving the safety in your neighborhood. I'd also encourage dentists to get involved with, charities like Gift from the Heart, because that's when you feel like you're really making a difference, like helping the people who need it the most, who don't have
totally.
access to care otherwise.
Yeah. As Nicole, my girlfriend, always says, she says, we all have the ability to change someone's today, someone's tomorrow, and someone's forever. And it's almost like, what are you going to do? Like we
Yeah,
all have that in us. And as dentists, we don't have to do dental work to change someone's life. Like you said, just do something. Like do something. Buy
yeah,
someone a coffee. Hold the door open for someone. Just
yeah,
change your
exactly.
framework. Like that is the subtle art of giving back, is throwing a starfish back in the water that day. And just throw
Yeah,
one
it's
a
true.
day. Just throw one a day, right? That's what I really like about that. But that's how we uplift ourselves. But what do you struggle with as a dentist, a mom, a advocate of so many people?
Yeah.
What's your struggle?
I still struggle with clinical dentistry. I still don't feel like I'm the best that I could be, so I'm always striving to be better with that.
Yeah,
Uh, I also struggle with the advocacy that I'm doing. It takes years to make, even a small difference. So, you said, how do you make a difference with when you're doing advocacy? It's really hard because you
it takes
you
years.
have to keep talking to people over and over and over again.
Yeah,
And it reminds me of the hummingbird story. You said the starfish story. With the hummingbird story, there was a forest fire, and so all the animals just stood by the side and watched the fire, like even like the bigger animals, like even the elephant that could have done something. But it was the hummingbird, the smallest animal in the forest, that would go to the water. get a drop of water, go to the fire, drop it, go back to the water, get a little bit of water in his beak, go back to the fire and drop it. And all the animals are like, "What are you doing? You're so small. Your beak is tiny. You can only put a drop of water on the fire at a time." And the hummingbird answered, "But I'm doing the best that I can." So, I mean, that's all we have to do is do the best that we can.
Yeah.
So, you asked me about my struggles, the clinical dentistry, the advocacy, because I feel like, we've been talking about the same issue for 30 years with politicians and we're not making a difference at all, but I'm
Yeah.
going to still keep talking about it. The other thing I struggle with is just balancing everything, like making sure I have time for my family, for myself, for work, and all the things that I love to do outside of dentistry. So I always make it a priority to see my friends every week and my family and to take care of myself as well and to eat healthy and exercise. And so I notice that when I'm unhappy, it's because, all those four things, the family, the friends, the self-care, and my work and everything related to dentistry is not in balance.
Yeah.
So I'm a very structured person and very disciplined. So like I make time for everything.
Yeah.
But how
I
about
hear
you,
that.
Nekky? What do you struggle with?
I struggle with people's expectations. I
Like patients'
can't,
expectations?
yeah, I can't disassociate that from my own self-worth. And I struggle with that. I do see, like, I am proud to say I see a counselor to help me, get over the hump of defining, like as you said, when March 2020 hit and we all had to go to our basements, I was dying because my self worth is linked to my profession, and
Yeah.
a virus took my degree from me, and that
Yeah.
killed me. But then I started teaching, and I started getting my self worth from my dentists around me to share my skills to hopefully inspire them to be able to offer new services to help their patients and become a better dentist. So it took me a while to get there, but I still struggle with defining my self worth, and I think we all struggle from to some degree of of imposter syndrome. Like, I don't want people to catch on that maybe I'm not as good as I am. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I think we all struggle with that to a degree, but at the end of the day, we're all human, and if we weren't able to share our struggles with each other, how else would we be able to grow from them? So I'm like in my lectures, I share my failures. In these talks, I like sharing each other's struggles because, I don't care who's listening, even if there's one person listening. I just want you to know that you're not alone because you have two dentists right here that struggle along with you, and
Amazing.
it's part of it, right? That's part of life in whatever profession you're in, whether you're a dentist or an esthetician or a physician. It doesn't matter. You're still going to have the exact same struggle as defining your purpose. And are you leading your purpose?
So what would
I
you
don't
say your purpose is?
Um, I struggle with that, but I've kind of, you always try to write down your purpose. You always try to define what your purpose is. But I truly believe I was placed on earth to help people. Like in dentistry, I feel like my purpose was to allow people to get over their fear and to increase access to a whole subset of population that did not that weren't treated well or have incredible fear. And I don't know, whether it's the drugs or whether it's me acting goofy in front of them, but I've been able to definitely break through so many barriers to, talk to people and be like, hey, if you were my dentist 30 years ago, I wouldn't be in this position right now. And I'm like, yeah, like, we don't have to all be evil, right? But
Mhm.
I feel like that's my purpose at work. But outside of work, it is definitely, I want to help someone each and every day, and I don't want anything in return. And when I can do that, I just feel like I'm 10 feet tall. I don't
Wow, that's
know.
incredible. You're
I
doing
don't know.
and you're doing it. Like, you
Well,
inspire me to be a better person, so you're definitely achieving your purpose.
Oh, thank you. No, but that's just what we do. Like you're the same way. Like we inspire each other, but unless we have, friends with a long reach, across the country, I know I can always rely on you if I ever needed anything, and you
Yeah,
have that friend
I
in
feel
me.
the
But
same
I
way.
think dentists, we all need to be like that for each other. And so I'm so excited to see conferences coming back so people are allowed to
Yeah,
reconnect, because that's what's missing right
yeah,
now is you can't reconnect over a webinar. You know what I mean? You need to reconnect in person, and I'm so excited to do that again soon. Yeah, it'll be awesome.
good.
But Sanj, I can't thank you enough for spending an hour with me. I always learn so much. I love that hummingbird story because we're able to make a difference. Whether you're throwing a starfish back in the ocean or you're
Yeah.
dumping your little beak of water on a fire, you're doing the best that you can. And I think
Yes,
that's the important message. The art of giving back is your mindset of doing the best you can.
thank you. And I like
Yeah.
to leave the audience with a parable.
Yes,
So it
finally.
is, yes, you love my parable. So it's about the redwood trees, which are the biggest trees in the world, the widest, the strongest, they live the longest. And what's their secret? Well, the funny thing is their roots are really short. And you're probably thinking,
Really?
how can a tree over 300 feet have
Yeah.
roots that are like 6 to 12 feet long? Well, the reason why they're so big and strong and live so long, even with shallow roots, is that their roots intermingle. So they're benefiting each other mutually. So they're helping each other grow. Whereas other
Ah,
trees, the roots just go down, and they only can think of themselves. So if we all think of ourselves as redwood trees, where our roots can benefit each other, we're all going to grow to be bigger and better people.
yeah. I like that. I really like that. That's so cool. I like that because Joshua Shea, he was talking about the banyan trees and the coconut trees and
Yes.
building your roots. And so, no, I like this. The redwood trees. Lots of good stories with animals and trees. Hey, Sanj.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk with you. I can't wait to see you in person.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you too. It'll be awesome, and we'll connect soon. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you all for listening. And we will see you all next week. Have a good one, guys.